Will you bow with me? Eternal God our Father, please do it again. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Will you do me a huge favor? First of all, good morning to all of you. Or afternoon, whichever you want to consider it. Would you do me a huge favor and elevate your right hand? Just kind of wave it at me. Put the right hand down. Simon says, lift your left hand. Just kind of wave it at me. Now, Brandon says, hug yourself real tight. Kind of rock from side to side.
You didn't say Simon?
Yeah. Simon doesn't matter at this point. Side to side. Thank you so much for taking the pressure off of me. Now nobody can say that this preacher didn't move. Life is filled with what most would consider unfair realities. Yeah. Healthy people die at an early age. Unhealthy people seem to live for quite a long time. Those who are not formally trained tend to receive decent and even good jobs. And those who go to school and get their degrees often struggle to even find a job. Great parents may have wayward children. And then there are careless parents who may have successful children. The wicked experience great surplus and satisfaction, while the worshiper experiences great stress and struggle. The latter proves to be the issue and thesis of Psalms 73, where we discover the sincere sentiments of a worshiper by the name of Asaph. Simply put, Asaph admits to struggling with the idea of the wicked living prosperous lives, especially when compared with the suffering of those who trust in God. This troubling truth made it difficult for him to do what he was both created and commissioned to do: worship. Yes, you heard correctly. I am suggesting to us this morning that worshiping God can be difficult to do.
Right.
In fact, I want to suggest that Asaph begins this psalm by teaching us how worship can be difficult when there is a shifting of focus. Verses 1 through 3 of Psalm 73 shows us Asaph's confession. He opens by stating, surely God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. He readily admits with the utmost confidence that God, Elohim, is good to his people, Israel. It seems like we're off to a great start. That is, until Asaph continues by further admitting, but as for me, my feet came close to stumbling, and my steps almost slipped, for I was envious of the wicked. Furthermore, verses 4 through 12, Asaph makes his case. He describes the lavish lifestyle of those who deliberately are unfaithful to God. In verse 4, they experience peace without pain. And in verse 5, they experience pleasure without punishment. In verses 6 through 11, they are prideful without pity. And in verse 12, they experience profit without any perplexity. Please note that initially, Asaph was able to recognize and proclaim the goodness of God, but started tripping once he gave attention to the prosperous ways of the wicked. And might I suggest to us this morning, my brothers and sisters, that it is extremely difficult to worship God when you don't know how to mind your own business.
Amen.
If God is the definite subject and the direct object of our worship, then it is impossible to give him what he deserves if we are concerned about others receiving what they don't deserve. Simply put, worship only happens when one remains focused on he who alone is worthy of all worship. But Asaph further teaches us through his honest expressions how worship is made difficult when you settle in frustration. Asaph states his case in the aforementioned verses, but he states his complex in verses 13 through 16. In summary, Asaph starts to wonder if his attempts at pure, righteous, and faithful living are in vain. He asks the question, did I keep my heart pure for nothing? In other words, have I really been living the best I can only to have nothing to show for it? In fact, Asaph presses the issue even further in verse 14. Listen to how the New Living Translation renders verse 14. He says, I get nothing but trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. And then verse 16 shows that he is trying to wrap his head around all of this. He is trying his best to understand and make some sense of all of these thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so grateful for Asaph's honest approach here, because he expresses a truth that many believers often fail to consider or choose to deny, and that is, you can be faithful and frustrated. People, don't be fooled into thinking that worshiping, honoring, and serving the Lord will always be satisfying. You will find yourself being committed to God, all the while feeling like he is not as committed to you. There are those who wonder, I give cheerfully to my church, but why can't I make ends meet? While there are others who wonder, I do my best to raise my kids in the fear and admonition of the Lord, yet they still choose to act out. And still others wonder, I pray faithfully and fervently, but why are doors closing instead of opening? These, amongst other questions and concerns, contemporarily describe where Asaph is in this life, in this moment in his life. However, please note that though Asaph admits to being envious of the prosperity of the wicked, he does not submit to being wicked in order to be prosperous. Allow me to rewind and say that again.
Yeah, amen.
Though Asaph admits to being envious of the prosperity of the wicked, he does not submit to being wicked in order to be prosperous. In other words, my brothers and sisters, it takes a mature worshiper to admit that I do not fully understand or even agree with the will and sovereignty of God. However, though I may not understand it, I still choose to stand under it. Wow. In conclusion, allow me to show you, by way of Asaph's honest expressions, how worship becomes easier and more effective. The psalmist teaches us that worship is possible only when you put the spotlight on his faithfulness. Again, I repeat, worship is possible only when you put the spotlight on his faithfulness. In verse 17, Asaph had this life-changing and perspective-altering moment in the presence of God when he enters the sanctuary. It is in this moment that he considered the sinner's future, as seen in verses 18 through 20. However, it is also in this moment in God's presence that he also considers his own folly, as made evident in verses 21 and 22. And may I parenthetically insert that anytime you find yourself in the presence of God, you not only get a glimpse of who God is, but you also get a glimpse of who you are not.
Amen.
Amen.
But he nears his conclusion by reflecting on the Lord's faithfulness. In verses 23 through 26, he considers how God is always present. He considers how God protects him. He considers how God pioneers his path. And he considers how God is so persistent. But ladies and gentlemen, verses 27 and 28 really excite me, if you can't tell, because I'm getting out of breath here. But he acknowledges that the wicked are eventually destroyed by the power of God, but the worshiper finds dwelling in the presence of God. Then he concludes by vowing to tell everyone of the good works of God. Please don't miss that. Asaph essentially comes to this conclusion, that the prosperity of the wicked is not permanent, and eventually they will get theirs. But wait, there's more. He also concludes that the suffering of the worshiper is not permanent, and they too will get theirs.
Wow.
In other words, if God is just enough to appropriately deal with the wicked, he is also faithful enough to appropriately deal with the worshiper.
Right.
God will take care of you. And if I was back home in the church I grew up in, they would sing a song that said, be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide. God will take care of you. All you may need, he will provide. God will take care of you. But here's what you have to do. Trust in him and you will be satisfied. God will take care of you.